Hey everyone, I'm Andrew,
My name is Eric.
and today we have two special guests. We are here with EJ and Rue.
Woo!
Woo! Yeah.
EJ and Rue are both comedians. I first saw them doing a comedy show, and then when I performed for Truly in LA, I actually was on a lineup with EJ, and so that's how I'm acquainted with them. And Rue was there too, and we got to like chat after the show and have a great time and drink Trulies.
It was a truly great time.
Oh, and the comedy's coming in strong already. And then today we are going to discuss the Ultimatum, specifically season 2, the Queer Ultimatum, and we're excited to talk about that. But before we get into all that, we have a question we like to ask all our guests, and that is, what's the queerest thing you did this week? And if y'all need time to think, Eric and I can go first.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys go first.
Okay. I'll go first. I have a little crush. There's this guy who I've been hanging out with a lot, and right now we're just friends, but I think I've made it clear that like I would like to involve that into something more. He doesn't want that right now, but we're kind of just hanging out. I'll see where it goes. I'm enjoying it for what it is and not worrying about labels. We haven't done anything like physical yet, like we haven't kissed, but we are getting more intimate in our talks and stuff, and I'm just like, I know what I want. I'm like head over heels, like thinking about him all the time. On the bonus side, because I am still single, I don't have to rewrite my jokes about being single, so that's the only silver lining. But I don't know, I'm enjoying it for what it is, and it's fun and it's cute. So that's gonna be mine.
That's exciting.
Yeah. How about you, Eric?
Mine always really towing the line with whether or not this is queer, but I like meal prepped like a massive curry, and I like didn't want to eat it for 5 days. So I was like texting friends being like, I made curry. You want curry? I'm on my way. And I'm like going to like my coworkers like with Tupperware. I'm like, here's curry, take it. And I was just like mothering around town for a second trying to get rid of this curry.
Awesome.
And it felt so holistic and like queer self-care to like
Yeah.
be in my home. I was listening to like soft meditative music while like massaging a kale salad. Like, I felt very like, I was like, my queer elders would be proud right now.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I feel like every time I've meal prepped or like made a bunch of something, it's immediately becomes disgusting and inedible to me. Like I cannot eat it. Right now we have a bunch of frozen blocks of curry from months ago in our freezer. And it's so I can't do meal prep.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's so like I'm sure if you like heated it up and cooked it, like maybe you could get to being good, but the idea of it where it's like this has been frozen for months. I want to die rather than do this. Yeah.
Okay, I would say the queerest thing that I did this week was apologies if I'm stealing yours.
I bet you are, because I think I know what you're gonna say.
Well, I have one and two. Maybe I should say the
one you don't think is gonna be the one I want.
Okay, y'all are so cute. Y'all are adorable.
We're like, no, you say it. Okay, it's part of a large whatever. I'm just gonna say it. So I drove a really nice Jeep Wrangler with the top off. And that felt extreme. That felt gender affirming. That felt queer. That felt gorgeous. Felt sexy.
Yeah.
So it was
That's
a part
amazing.
of a story, which I feel like Rue is probably gonna get into.
Well, now I'm like, actually, that isn't even what I was gonna say.
Well, I know that's not what you were gonna say. That's why I said it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess. Well, originally what I was gonna say is we went to this like pride party in LA that was like at a pool, and it felt like we were in the L word.
See, it didn't even occur to me. I've got so many other queer things.
Yeah, but the other thing we did was we flew up to Portland and then drove to Washington to go to a Brandy Carlisle concert. And
wait, y'all were in Washington? I live in Washington. What the heck?
Yeah, but like literally for like 2 hours.
We were in the gorge, like close to Spokane.
Oh, sick. I love the gorge. Okay.
It was
Beautiful.
beautiful. It was beautiful. But yeah, EJ's mom, we went with EJ's mom, and she wanted to rent just like a regular SUV.
Yeah.
But when we got to the car place, they're like, "This is all we have," and it's like a massive Jeep
A
Wrangler.
brand new Jeep Wrangler hybrid,
It's the hybrid model, but it was getting 21 miles to the gallon. So how the fuck does that work?
isn't that insane?
Y'all are so much more masculine than I am.
Me being like, is that good or bad?
That's terrible.
I think I need to do something gender affirming now. Like I'm like, all right, I need to feel like more of a man. Like, wait, that sounds so dope though.
Yeah, driving the Jeep, no top.
No top. It was, and the doors could come off. We kept the doors on for
Chorus.
safety.
Safety.
Yeah, how did it feel? How did it feel being behind the wheel?
Powerful.
It's a powerful vehicle.
You're high up. People are looking at you. Like it's sexy. It's a sexy car.
Yeah, people were jealous. We could see it in their eyes on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Like, first time I've ever been looked at ever is the Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Thank you. That is an incredible answer. I love that so much. All right, so let's talk about this show. How okay, from an outside perspective, it seems like the show is really popping off, like especially within like maybe the more female and lesbian queer community. I feel like there's a word for that I don't know. But that's like not necessarily gender related. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Dykes.
Oh my god.
No censor. Leave it.
I was not expecting that. That's so funny. Oh my god. Okay, so what would y'all say has been the reception, and how did you each individually like hear about this show at first?
Okay, so I was actually talking about this with my friend also named Andrew, and I was like,
hey.
the most popular, because I made my Instagram story like, who else is watching this? Everyone's responding, and I was like asking him, I was like, do you think that this is the most popular show to have ever existed, or do you think we just only know gay people? And he said it. And so
yeah,
I feel so, to me it feels like every one of my, like I was in spin class. I was getting like my pedals out before the class actually started, and the woman next to me was like, we ended up talking about the ultimatum, and then after class we talked about for 15 more minutes.
Yeah.
And so I
do you think she was gay?
I don't know if she was gay, because she told me that no one else she knows is watching it.
See, this is what I've been wondering.
So that makes me feel like she's not gay.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's gay without a lot of gay friends.
Yeah.
But me and all my friends are watching it. All of my gay coworkers, I've been telling them to watch it, and they've started watching it. But I'm like, I want to ask, I feel like I want to ask my older sister. She's a non-practicing bisexual, but and this is right up her alley. So I think that will help me figure out its reach.
So she's kind of on the cusp.
She's on the cusp.
Yeah, there's like a certain like millennial straight-ish woman who's like maybe watching it.
Yeah. She wouldn't, but she wouldn't like not watch it because she's like, ew, gay, you know? She wouldn't not watch it. She's not homophobic. So
well, yeah. Okay.
She's cusp. She's cusp.
Yeah, she's cusp. She's cusp.
Wait, so how did y'all first hear about it?
I feel like I was getting targeted like TikToks and shit for it like months and months ago. I feel like the algorithm
they had your number.
Like,
they were like, all right.
Yeah. The algorithm was like, it seems like you might like this. I mean, I tried watching the first season of the Ultimatum.
We tried it.
Couldn't get through it. I thought it was so insufferable. And so I was kind of like, oof, I don't know. But then I'm looking at the promos for the show, and I'm seeing like masked lesbians and like non-binary people, and I'm like, yeah, I should tune into this. I'm like, definitely, because you don't see people like that on TV very often. So I think that was the big appeal for me, was I was like, they're showing butches kissing on TV. What?
Well,
not each other, unfortunately, but you know, there was a maybe.
Yeah, there was a maybe.
There was a maybe.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Oh, and how about you, Rue?
Well, I was gonna say, and pretty instantly it was taking over my TikTok feed. Like I was constantly, to avoid spoilers. I think this has been the biggest stressor of this show for me, is that it's been nearly impossible for me to avoid spoilers. Like, because I was like, I want to be in the moment and enjoy it. I'm invested in this. I want the story to unfold for me as it is meant to unfold. So I really didn't want to get spoilers. And once I started watching the show, avoiding spoilers also became a full-time job in and of itself. So I feel like every piece of media I consume has been algorithmically pointing me to it.
Yeah, being like, finish the show, finish the show, finish.
Because we love, well, I'll say I love, EJ likes Love is Blind and stuff like that. I'm really interested in like the type of reality TV show like The Bachelor, where marriage is like mandatory, because it's so funny.
So
because
funny.
I just want to be like, you guys know that like no one's gonna kill you if you're not married. They like act like if they're not getting married that they're gonna be like stoned in the town square or something. And so I think that whole concept really fascinates me, especially when applied to queer people, because I'm like, I feel like queer people, especially marriage, is not required.
Yeah, it's like,
so
what?
what's going on, guys?
Yeah, so it was mandatory watching for Rue to figure out.
Yeah, because I'm like, I'm like, what kind of like mental illness do you need to have to go on this show? Is like how I feel. Like,
Oh,
what
they're
is
all
that
ill.
diagnosis?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
They're all mentally ill. That's how I
Yeah.
feel about the mandatory marriage thing, where like at the beginning of the episode where it's like one of them was talking and they're like, either I leave here, we are stronger together, I leave here alone, or I leave here with someone else.
Yeah.
And I was with my roommate and I was like, don't leave with someone else.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't leave with someone
Do
else.
not start a relationship.
Do not do that.
That's so funny. You know, this is really interesting because as a gay man, I was not served any ads for this show
Not
Fascinating.
at all.
at all.
Not
But
at
also,
all.
I am also like not a fan of reality TV generally either. So like that might be part of it too. Like the only reality TV I watch is Survivor. So this was interesting. And I also wonder, because you're talking about how this maybe has like a more massive appeal than just a queer subgroup, is that like I think the Ultimatum, the original one, did have like pretty decent viewership, right? That did it well on its own right.
Yeah.
And so I can see how people would naturally like evolve from watching that to watching season 2. So
Yeah. I can too, but I also feel like a lot of there's one girl who I used to follow for all of her reality TV show takes, but then she blocked me and it's complicated. We had some political
tell us the full
disagreements.
story. Tell the
It's
full
literally
story.
boring, but I'm like, I feel like I need her take on it, because, or if she, do you need to know if she's watching it, because I feel like that's the real litmus test.
Yeah.
But
Do you need me to find out?
EJ checks up on her for me.
I don't follow her. Rue just looks at you. Just look at
I know.
it.
I need to see if she's due. I don't, but I haven't seen anything about the Ultimatum, so I kind of think it might be mostly it's a queer people.
I know. I'm like, it's a single straight man watching the Ultimatum. That, you know, like I'm like,
But I also feel like these shows in general, like, is a single straight man watching Love is Blind, you know?
I guess yeah. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're watching.
Well,
What are they doing?
Any single straight man out there and everyone else, we invite you now to go watch the show, and we will take our little break. Bye.
Queer.
And we're back. Wow, so much going on. It is a bit bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Needless to say.
Yeah, what was y'all's reaction when you watched the first episode? You were like, oh, I was right to start on this journey. I'm hooked. Or like, what was that?
Yeah, I think I was just like really excited to see what happened. Immediately, I was like, wow, there's a lot of different personality types. Everybody's being themselves, which is beautiful. And I can't wait to see what these guys get into.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that I was like, I've never seen people who look like this on reality TV, like especially like Tiff and Mal, like just like really beautiful kind of lesbians.
Yeah.
Like
Beautiful
masked lesbians. And also like already I was appreciating how sort of emotionally articulate everyone was or is. I feel like that's something that this show really offers that other reality shows don't, where I'm like, okay, you guys, like, I can tell a lot of you have been in therapy and like have a lot of good emotional vocabulary.
Yeah, I feel like, and going off that, I feel like one of my strongest reactions too was that I think what I was nervous about with this show was feeling like I would watch it and then feel like it wasn't actually for me, like they were catering towards a straight audience or pandering towards straight people. But honestly, I was like, no, this is definitely for queer people. Like, this is definitely for dykes. Like, I was like, this is so how we talk, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously they're like a reality show version of that in some ways, but like the way that people are talking about their relationships and the emotional stakes and all of that, I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Totally. I really wish that the host was queer.
Yeah, that was so
I really
weird.
wanted I really wanted Fortune Feemster to be the host or someone. Like, if you know that comic, she's like a really funny lesbian comic. But like I'm just like, why would you not have a queer host?
Yeah.
It was so random when one of the contestants was like, are you queer? And she's like, no. And they're like, you're gorgeous.
Yeah, you're gorgeous.
What?
And I'm like, wait, did they tell him to say that? It was so bizarre.
It felt like very much a producer was like, at some point, just maybe you got to mention that she's straight.
Yeah.
We just got to get that out of the way.
Got to establish that up top.
Like, everyone be really nice about it. Okay?
Everyone be so happy about it. You actually want it. Yeah.
You would prefer it.
She like comes out. She's like, now first things first. I am not a homo.
Yeah.
Well, and you can watch like, I mean, no spoilers, but like,
no, you can spoil it now. We're past the spoiler free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like throughout the season, it like genuinely feels like she's actively trying to not like have strong reactions to what they're saying. Like, it's like, I mean, it's just like when you're like around a straight person and you're saying something and they're like, oh, you know, like, oh, really? Like overcompensating. Like, it's like so uncomfortable.
She doesn't know what's going on.
She doesn't know what they're talking about. Like, poor girl.
She's like, you're all gay, right?
And so I'm sorry, wait a minute. And you've been you're sleeping in the same bed?
Yeah.
But wait, how? You look like a man. What's going on here?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Something that frustrated me is that, I mean, I definitely am not like for the mandatory sharing of pronouns, which I feel like a lot of people have sort of conflated with being progressive. And I think people should share their pronouns if and how they want. I wish that they had made some effort to like introduce people by their pronouns, because I'm also finding like, I like read somewhere that like Tiff actually mostly uses they them pronouns, and like Ozzy, I think, has a really complicated gender situation going on, and I'm like not sure what pronouns Ozzy uses. And I just feel like that could have been just really useful. I like wish I knew what people's pronouns were. And then but then also sometimes like Xander is she, her.
Okay.
But I just he, him, Xander all the way. But I'm like, you look like that and you changed your name to Xander. What's going on?
This is rude. You can't. But this, okay. Okay. Sorry. I don't know if you guys realize you invited the gender police on your podcast. But we will get to the bottom of it. But no, it's I also feel like, you know, butch lesbians have been changing their names.
No, you're so right. You're so right.
But yes, it wasn't easily like Netflix, or it's Netflix, right? Netflix could have so easily had like a little thing at the bottom of like, even if someone like didn't want to share their pronouns, you know, just like, you know.
Right.
Like,
I care more about someone's pronouns than if they're like a dental hygienist, you know?
Right. It would be so easy in the intro for them to do that, but
I can't tell if like the whole like not introducing pronouns, I'm like, is that for like the queer people who get it, or is that for like the straight people who are like, I don't want to hear pronouns. Like,
Right.
I know.
who is
I
like
think,
that for?
yeah,
I almost feel
yeah.
like it more likely was the latter. And like,
Yeah.
I feel like that piece of it might have honestly been them trying to appeal to a more broad like demographic of like, oh, if people see the pronouns, they're gonna, you know, turn it off.
Yeah.
That's gonna be what puts them over
Unfortunately.
the edge. Like,
Yeah.
which is so random because it's like, okay, you're looking at a masked lesbian already, but like, you know, God
Mhm.
forbid it to they them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting. And if that was the reason for the decision, I guess I hope it's working because it does. I could see like someone watching this being like, oh, yeah, lesbians. And then like coming out learning a lot.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah,
That's true.
for real. Especially because like, yeah, especially in media, we have such warped perceptions of what a lesbian is.
Yeah.
You know, like it's like,
Yeah.
like we were saying, like you don't see butch lesbians on TV very
Mhm.
often. And if you do, they're like the butt of jokes, honestly. So it is
Yeah, I feel like most like lesbian representation is like two femme bisexuals like running their fingers through each other's hair, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Love
but
that,
it's like
but,
it's
you
more
know.
than it's
I love to watch that.
yeah, I mean I'm not against that.
look, that should be anywhere, but you know.
Yeah, we haven't done a lot of reality TV on this podcast yet, but one thing that I think that's really interesting about reality TV is that it's kind of hard to mess up representation wise, totally, because you're using real people.
Mhm.
And I think, that's probably one of the reasons Drag Race has such a huge appeal on the gay community is that like you're showing actual gay people. And for a long time, that was like the first like really authentic representation we were having. So it is interesting to see y'all talk about kind of the other side of this. And yeah, and I think Queer Eye also is like another really successful like gay male media that again is portraying real homosexuals. So it's like very easy to identify with that.
Mhm.
And hopefully that makes a good stepping stone for
Mhm.
like more education to the wider community, and like we can go from having authentic unscripted stuff to authentic scripted stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're so right. I feel like you're saying, a really special piece of, you know, Drag Race and Ultimatum is like, and Queer Eye is you
Mhm.
get to have queer people relating to each other as friends. Like you get to see those relationships. Obviously with Ultimatum, like it is, you know, technically about marriage or whatever, but so much of it is like, you know, inter-community dialogue and how people
Yeah.
actually talk to each other about stuff.
Yeah.
Which I feel like, you know, if you're someone who isn't around gay people or you don't know that many gay people, I don't know, you're not gonna see that kind of representation of how we actually relate to each other.
Yeah. Well, I also think another like obvious, have you guys seen the queer season of Are You the One?
I was literally about to bring that up. Crazy season. I
It's
love
a
it.
crazy season.
It's
And I feel
awesome.
like in terms of like representation of
Yeah.
like our diverse community, I feel like Are You the One does such a better job. Like
Mhm.
I just feel like it's there's like, I mean, it's like about the queer community broadly. Or wait, no, what do they call it? The sexually fluid community.
Yeah.
Sexually,
Wait.
pansexual,
So-
sexually fluid. Yeah.
I am not familiar. So for our other listeners who aren't familiar, please fill me in. What is this?
Oh yeah, Eric, you want to take it?
Okay, so Are You the One is like this reality show. Obviously, when it first started, it was like a very like heterosexual like show where it's like 20 people are in a house and there's like 10 like scientifically paired matches amongst these 20 people. It's like scientists put them all together and everyone has their perfect match. And
We
the
don't
goal of
know what
show is-
what the formula is for the matches, but we know it's foolproof.
Yeah.
we don't know where the scientists are from. Are they
Yeah.
Harvard Med? We don't know. But so basically it's like the whole show is them sort of all like kind of getting with each other, trying out different matches and seeing. And if they all get like their matches, then they get a pot of like $200,000 and they all have to split it, which is really not that much money
No,
at all. If you really think about it.
After taxes, those of them that pay out their reps, they're maybe getting $14,000 each.
Literally, yeah. And so then season like 6 or 7, they decided to do a queer season. And so it's like 14 people. There's 7 perfect matches, but it's like everyone's sexually fluid, people of all different genders, like
Oh wait, I
everything.
have seen this. Oh my god, I
You-
like watched the finale with when I was like drunk at an after party, and it was like a weird surreal dream. So I was like coming at the finale of a reality TV show you don't know the premise of is like wild.
Yeah. But I feel like on that show, we get to see the characters have like a lot, because it's like less I mean, yes, ultimately the goal is like monogamous pairings, but to get there, they're switching around as much as they can. So you get to, and then also there's like a lot of like friendships that are built because they're all together in the same house versus people pairing off. And so you just get to see like a lot of like really cool and interesting and candid conversations about like queerness and gender and like people comparing and contrasting their experiences, and like there's like really interesting things that happen. Like there's like a Black trans femme person who like talks a lot about how like they feel like they're like often the last pick, and like the politics of desirability around like race and gender. And I don't know, I just feel like the ultimatum in terms of like having those conversations does not hold a candle to Are You the One? And I think it's like because ultimately I do think that they're trying harder to pander to like a straight audience and bring them in and like explain stuff and like start with 101 sometimes.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So good. We'll review it and have y'all back, because that's such a good season.
I'm down. In terms of bringing people in, or at least starting at 101, one thing was interesting for me watching the pilot is, I mean, as a gay man, I often think of Pride as a time for like, all right, it's my time to be celebrated and studied and understood. And so like watching this, I realized like this is something I haven't really watched a lot of before, like lesbian dating and WLW and the word you used, which I'm not going to repeat.
Come on.
You're like, do it, say it. No. But yeah, so I was like, oh, this is cool. I feel like I'm getting to like kind of learn and or just kind of like think about stuff like, oh yeah, what I feel like in the gay world you have a lot of like the masculine men tend to get with the masculine men, like that's more of a thing, whereas in this it seemed like there was like definitely interest between like people who were very, very feminine presenting and very masculine presenting, like which is a dynamic I think I haven't witnessed as much in the gay world, which is cool. And so just kind of like learning that and getting a chance to like experience, I have lesbian people in my life, but I'm usually not like interacting with them on a romantic context or like seeing or like talking about their dating life as much. And so like getting to witness that I think was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I know we talked a lot about the like butch femme dynamics of the show, because it really is. I mean, the word lesbian, a beautiful thing about the lesbian community, the dyke community, whatever, is that it's very diverse. There's all kinds of people under the umbrella, which is awesome. Like obviously like I'm a trans guy and like I still very much feel at home in like lesbian spaces, but it is like a really interesting thing. Like we were watching it as, a mask for mask couple, and we're like, there's nobody, they're not gonna show that on the show, that wasn't on the show, and you don't see that a lot. But like you're saying, like the butch femme, was, I mean, all representation is good. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like I was like, that is cool to see. I still like to see that, especially like we were saying before, how like most of what we see on TV is femme for femme, or like two very feminine people. But and
they did have a date that happened between like two of the more mask presenting cast members, and they even discussed that, like, oh, this is not something I usually go for, but I'm kind of interested,
I know, we freaked out,
but then spoiler, they abandoned it completely. It never comes up again.
They never talk about it again. We were really hoping for that. We were like, oh. But no, but it did feel huge even to see that on TV, like genuinely those two people even discussing the idea of it. You take the crumbs you can get, but
and that's wild that it's like 2023 and this is the first time you're seeing that. Like that's
I know. I feel like we really talked about it a lot. Like we had a moment where I was like, we were like, wow, I don't think about that specific kind of representation that often. I don't know, but like seeing it was one of those moments where you're like, oh yeah, I am starved for this kind of representation.
Yeah.
Sounds like y'all have a sitcom to write about y'all's relationship.
Literally, we are.
I'm trying.
Oh, really?
City of Dreams.
Yeah. Well, okay. Also, something I want to bring up about the premise of the show is like if EJ wanted us to get married and I wasn't ready, and then he brought me on a reality TV show, instant breakup.
Yeah.
Instant.
Yeah.
We wouldn't even get to the first day of filming. I'd be like, are you kidding me? Well, and the whole concept of an ultimatum is insane because it's like marriage should not be under duress, you know?
Yeah.
No, the entire concept. Well, this is how I feel about kind of reality shows largely is like, I can't think about it literally. Like I can't think about what is literally happening because then I won't want to engage because it's ridiculous. Like
it makes no sense.
I have to think about it more in terms of like, I think about it like astrology. I think about astrology, which is like, I'm totally fine. I love having conversations about astrology that like lead to other conversations about other bigger themes. Like it's really interesting when I meet someone, they're like, oh, I'm a Cancer. And then we can talk about, oh, do you feel, emotions really strongly? That's interesting. What, how have you noticed that in your life? And I feel like I do the same thing with reality shows because I don't it is, if I met someone and they were like, oh, my partner doesn't want to marry me, so I'm going to force them to by making them miserable, by putting them on a reality show, I would be like, okay, so we need to leave this party, right? And get you some.
Yeah, it is.
That's right. Oh,
You
sorry. Go. Okay, I was gonna say like with that, I feel like that's such the grab of the show where it's just like you like see it. It's like, oh yeah, one partner gave the other an ultimatum, and everyone's like, what? Like, and then like it's like especially like they first interviewed I think Xander and Vanessa, and like immediately like it was just so like Xander being like, I want to get married now, and it was Vanessa being like, I don't want that. And it's like, why are you going on the show? Like, like, break up. Sounds like you guys just need to break up right now and like spare yourself.
Well, not only does Vanessa not want to get married right now, she's saying she never wants to get married.
Yeah, literally.
And I'm like, that's allowed. Like, you're allowed to not want to get married. And then also, if like you're in a long-term partnership and that's a necessary progression and your partner is insisting that they don't want to get married or even have kids.
Yeah.
Those are deal breakers, you know?
That's kind of deal breakers. Yeah.
But going on a reality show will make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If other people see, they'll see what we're sort of seeing.
Yeah.
Like, let's get more eyes on this situation.
Get the microscope. Let's look.
Yeah.
Xander's saying I care more about my kids than you, or like anything. I was like, whoa. Strong start.
Crazy escalation. Yeah.
It is interesting to see like the different dynamics of like what led them to the ultimatum, because there is some diversity in those stories of like one's like, I do want to marry you, but I want to wait a little longer, or I'm just nervous, or like there was even one where they were like, I feel too nervous to propose and I'm hoping this exercise will give me the courage. I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cute.
That's a lot to get courage.
Who was the couple where it was Mal and who?
Yoli.
Okay, that dynamic interested me so much. And my roommate was watching the episode with me because she like loves the show. And she was like, Mal, the most well-adjusted person on this entire show, because it was like Mal like was talking about Yoli and was like, I feel as though Yoli falls in love with wherever she waters the grass. Like she like no matter where she spends her time, she's gonna fall in love with that person, and that really scares me. And it was such an interesting take on like a dynamic between two people. And I was so enamored with that couple specifically, and like wanted to know more about them.
Yeah, they're really interesting. Yeah,
they are really, really interesting. We think Mal's the hottest by far. We're like, Mal is 10 times hotter than everyone else on the show.
It was kind of like to a degree that was like, come on.
It's like, you shouldn't have let her on the show, because now we're seeing how mid these bitches are.
Yeah.
I'm just
Actually, though, Mal was
But-
so hot.
So
No,
hot.
it's truly
Yeah.
a bizarre thing. Okay, I'm trying to remember the first episode.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Vanessa at this point? What's your take on Vanessa?
That's the one with. I think Vanessa is just. For me personally, I was like, Vanessa is caught up with someone. Like Vanessa was this Xander's first like queer anything, and now
Yeah.
she's sort of like trapped in this relationship with them in the sense
Yeah.
of like.
Yeah.
Vanessa's trying to tell him like you need to go and have other experiences with other people. I can't
Mhm.
be your only one.
Mhm.
And also like I think Vanessa's like it's very unattractive that like you haven't like had all these other experiences. You don't know
Mhm.
sort of anything at all.
Mhm.
And so I think like I think Vanessa's just like I want to have other experiences. And so like
Yeah.
that couple so specifically, I'm like, why are you on this show? Clearly you two
Yeah.
should just break up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the get-go with them, it was like, what, like, obviously you both need to have more experiences and you want them. Like,
Yeah. Well, I feel really that way about Lexi because she is 24 years old.
yeah.
And I'm like, why are you? I just don't understand. Like, I feel like it's to get married, you probably want to get a good 5, 6, 7 years in with a person. I mean, not that it's like that's like a hard and fast rule and there's like other circumstances, but especially, or like Mildred and Tiff have been together for 18 months. Like,
No, Mildred and Tiff. Oh, really?
yeah, they were together for a year and a half. I'm
I
pretty
thought
sure.
Aussie and
That's wild. I also wrote down a year and 11 months, which I think was the lesbian Latina.
Yes,
Hashtag lesbian Latina.
Latina.
Which was so funny.
Those two
But-
are both separately so funny. I don't want to. It gets pretty like disturbing between
Yeah,
them
it
at
gets
the end of it
upsetting.
and pretty upsetting.
Oh.
And like ultimately it's like a mutual abuse situation, I would say, and
Ugh.
Oh.
not fun to watch.
Yeah, and they show honestly more of it than I feel like.
But
they
wait,
show.
has it happened in this episode where Tiff and Mildred are like hooking up in bed and they show it?
And
it
like
was
literally, I'm like, I was like, okay, they're porn stars. Like,
Yeah,
what?
yeah, I was whoa, like I keep having to always with reality shows, but like especially when they show like sexy stuff, I'm like, there are cameras in the room. You know, like I'm just like, my God.
Well, and
Some people
later
like that.
in the show, they have like there's a few times where they have like night vision cameras that are clearly like in the corner of the room,
Yeah.
filming them in bed,
Yes,
and they're like showing like them having sex to a degree that is like uncomfortable for me to watch. And
Yeah.
like I'm like, were they able to consent to like this specific cut? You're like having like people be like, oh yeah, that feels so good, and like moaning and stuff, and I'm like, oh my God, why are you guys showing this? It's private.
yeah, it feels very intense.
Yeah. Do you guys remember on Are You the One where the room where they have sex, the boom boom room?
The boom boom room.
Perfect.
Insane.
We're running out of time, so I want to go over a couple things here. One, I wanted to talk about we've already talked about how this is kind of like hard to mess up in terms of the representation of the actual cast members because they're real people. But there still is a lot of freedom in kind of what y'all are talking about already, like what is shown, the way the show is set up, who they cast.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of usually we discuss the writing. With a show like this, there's maybe the other aspects we can dive into. But I can first talk briefly about who I know that's behind this. One is Chris Colan, if I'm saying their last name correctly, who has done Love is Blind and other reality TV shows. And then the producer is listed as Kinetic Content. Both of these people, you can find articles, but they're like in terms of just like them in general, there's not as much content. Like there's not a Wikipedia page for Chris, and there's Kinetic Content. Like the information seems a little sparse too. But I don't know how many lesbians were involved in or queer people in general were involved in the making of this. To me, as I said, I still felt like and it sounds like from talking to y'all, I still felt like there was a lot of authenticity to what we saw. But yeah, I wanted to ask y'all, how do you think that those aspects were handled in this show?
I mean, definitely, I wish that there was like more than one Black person, but you know, it's like, I mean, with nothing, people aren't like Noah's Ark, and it's not like there's going to be 2 of everyone in every show. So I'm like, okay, beyond, I can like, you know, I'm like, we'll see if they do another season. Like, you get a couple tries and we'll see how it goes. But I feel like besides like representation of like Black people, it was like pretty racially diverse. And yeah, I mean, I feel like the type of lesbian that would go on this show is a really small, specific subgroup.
Yeah.
So I think inherently, like, none of our friends would go on this show. Like, no one we know would ever go on this show. So,
Yeah.
but I also
so
think like
picking from a small pool.
Yeah, and they're just like also so marriage focused, which is again really different from the queer community we're a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's like inherently a self-selecting group. I do like I mean, I love Love is Blind, and I think there's like a lot, it's really interesting to watch like people communicate and their relationships unfold. I like how they kept the signature Love is Blind opaque cups.
Ultimatum.
Yeah, I know, but the opaque cups are the Love is Blind thing where you can't see, so they can edit it. And you guys know that, so they can edit it however they want, and you can't figure out how full the glass is.
They make all the
they were like, we're chopping and screwing these shows so much, like, we can't have them have real glasses.
That's crazy.
Oh, that's what you mean. Like when they're drinking anything, the glasses are opaque so that they can like.
And like pretty much every reality show, like they do that on The Bachelor too.
It's like now a norm, and I feel like we've accepted as viewers that there is a huge degree of like fiction and exaggeration and manipulation that happens, and like I think they're not even like pretending anymore, really, which I think is ultimately a good thing, because I think it's like when reality TV first came out, everyone was like, wait, it's real. It's real. Yeah. And now I feel like people are like understand more.
I don't know. I think honestly, and maybe I'll sound like whatever annoying saying this, but I think that because we like live and work in the industry, like think about that more. But I feel like a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people take it at face value.
Yeah.
The reality shows, you know, like depending.
I've done it. It's interesting because I think it depends on the producers, but if they are using opaque cups, that is a sign that like, all right, how much is this stuff being chopped? I've done a little bit of like pseudo reality TV with doing Cut here in Seattle, which is kind of like reality-ish. Or it is reality, but it's like similar to reality TV. And I'm surprised at like how authentic the final cut ends up being. I'm like, oh. So I think if you do have the right cast and are asking the right questions, I will say you can kind of see the directing in this sometimes. It was like, all right, they were clearly told to talk about marriage in this scene, and that's what they're doing now. Like,
totally, yeah. It definitely depends on the show.
Yeah.
But y'all felt like overall it seemed authentic in terms of like the representation.
I would say the most authentic thing about it is, and you guys haven't gotten to this point, how the amount of dogs people have. Like, basically, there's like 4 dogs on the show. And like people are talking about the dogs. There's like a really funny thing that happens where Tiff,
there's conflict.
The person who Tiff pairs up doesn't want Tiff's dog in the bed, and Tiff like flips out. Yeah. Like Tiff is like, if you don't fuck with my dog, you don't fuck with me. And like the person who Tiff is paired with is like, no, I really like dogs. I don't want your enormous husky sleeping in the bed with us.
You're
reasonable
old husky.
Yeah, an elderly husky. And you ever smelled an old dog's breath, seen their teeth? I don't want that in my bed.
Yo, fuck with dogs. No, fuck with me. That's so good.
That is so funny. Well, y'all unfortunately have a meeting to get to. So unfortunately we had to wrap this up, but I have enjoyed talking with y'all so much. Thank you so much, EJ. Thank you so much, Rue. Any last inspiring words you want to say to the fans of Rainbow Room?
Keep being yourselves. Everybody else is already taken.
Whoa.
Brilliant and original.
I would say you don't have to get married, and you shouldn't try and force your partner to.
Yeah. Put the guns away. Just have a conversation.
Put the guns away.
And on that lovely note, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, Jinru.
Bye. Thank you guys so much.
That's all for this week. If you like the podcast, the best way you can support us is by recommending us to others. You can also subscribe to us and rate us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube by searching Rainbow Room Podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Rainbow Room Podcast and Twitter at Rainbow_Room_. Thanks for listening. See you next week.